challenges that we face. I don't see any questions in the chat room now, but I believe that you can raise your hand, or you can take yourself off mute if you have a question. So let's give everyone a little bit of time and see if we have any. And while we're waiting, I have a question that kind of encompasses what you guys have developed and seen with the ability to do more online virtual reach out and communication. As a provider in the Norfolk area, I think we all, when this first started, it was relatively new to us, and we were, there were some struggles at the beginning. Now that we're almost 2 years into it, what we found is that the patients, consumers, they have really adapted well when they have access. We do have some programs for those that don't, so that we can get them to a point of access, or actually provide them, sometimes on occasion, we can actually get them a smartphone where they can participate. So as we've done this has really helped in keeping people in care, because, our patients have many other barriers with this. Some of ours 2 and 3 jobs, transportation is limited, and so forth. The concern that I have, and something that I think could be part of kind of help from the consumers and the advocates, is the measures to do this and get by, both from a liability perspective and a regulatory perspective, is kind of temporary. And we hope that it will be extended. And that can extend from, those that have Medicaid and Medicare. Are they going to go back and say this is not acceptable? We have policies in place to make sure that appropriate level of care is given, but we would like to see that they allow this continue, because it is increasing our ability to communicate and keep people in care when they have those barriers. Any thoughts on that? Are you guys able to unmute?
You are muted.
Let's see. Let me see if I can.
Joanne. Joanne and Mark.
I am now unmuted.
Okay, good.
And my computer had froze just a little bit. And so, Stephen, great question. And so what I really want, one of the takeaways from this call, I really, as it relates to provider and consumer relationships, that we know that a more educated consumer is a consumer who more than likely will stay on the HIV care continuum, who's going to be a benefit to your agency, who's going to be a benefit to case management, who's going to show up for their appointments, who's going to show up on time, and also who's going to advocate not just for themselves, but for other consumers in the community. So the way I see it is, the more we educate consumers, the more we get consumers involved in the process, whether it's QMAC, whether it's an active participant in their own healthcare, it's a benefit not just to the agency and a benefit not just to the consumer, but a benefit to their community as well.
Excellent. And now we have some good questions coming in. The first one was, how do I become a member? And looking at the chat room, it's possible that I think Yuan posted. Is that a link?
Yeah, I just posted. I saw her question. That's why I didn't respond to you earlier. I was trying to respond to the person who asked that question. But I just posted a link. It's called the consent to engage form. And what happens if a consumer is interested, anyone can take this link and give it to a consumer. It's attached to a HIPAA compliant jot form. Everything they send to us is encrypted. And this will give us permission to contact you about events that we're having. If you want us to send you an application, that's in here. If you have questions or programming ideas, all of that is here. But what this does is it gives VACAC an opportunity to build our own database that's encrypted so that consumers who are interested and want to join, stay informed. You sign this with your finger at the end and it gives us consent to engage you. So that,
and the second piece of that question is a lot of the work that takes place with VACAC happens in your regional level and on the regional level. And so I would probably start by reaching out to your regional rep, and I think we've listed those earlier in the slide presentation. In Richmond, in the central region, will be Jawan Pierce, and in our southwest region will be Tom Salyer. In our eastern region will be Lene Hogan. Northwest region will be Vanessa Slaughter, and in the northern region is Liz Martinez. And this JOT form that Jawan placed in there is you will have an ability, once you fill it out, based on your region, you can contact the regional rep directly with any questions, and they'll be able to respond back to you and to let you know any activities that's going on in your particular region that you might want to get involved with.
Excellent, thank you. The next question is for Mark. Do you know if any agency in the state performed a patient satisfaction survey to assess patients' feelings regarding telehealth services?
Not to my knowledge, but I do know that this past year that our QI team, subcommittee of QMAC did a provider survey, and they also did a consumer survey. And though that information, that data from those surveys will definitely be able to be shared with individuals. And some of the questions they asked was about telehealth, was about COVID-19, was about your feeling of isolation, were you able to get in contact with your service providers during that time? So that information is shareable. And so we just got to figure out the right individuals to get that information from to share it. And I think Safri is on this call. So that would be the person that I would go to make sure that information is shared with the masses.
Thank you. The next is, would it be possible for an informational commercial to be put together by VACAC for agencies to play in waiting rooms or add to websites to define and promote VACAC participation with clients?
With VACAC tech guy, I'll let you take that question.
Okay, can y'all hear me?
Yes.
I was grabbing the link for the providers. Let me just post this link right quick before I talk. This link that I just posted there is for providers. If you want to ask a question of any of the VACAC reps, you will go to this link here. It's HIPAA compliant. Everything's encrypted. You put in your name, your email, your phone number, the name of your agency. You have a drop-down box with the list of the regional reps and Mark's name or who you want to send that question to, and put in whatever service or question you want answered, and someone will be back in contact with you. Now, the other question is that, yes, we are excitedly working on, I got all kind of high-tech software. If you see our presentation that we did, I used some new software to make that slideshow. So I'm excited. I love technology, and I'm the VACAC tech guy. And we do plan to make some educational videos. And our Eastern representative, Lene Hogan, she's also working on a project to make some videos that we can post and that you'll be able to use in the future. So coming soon. We're working on all kind of, because we found that in order to reach the generation of consumers that do have access to technology, or those who don't in the waiting rooms, we will be developing all kinds of exciting videos and public service announcement in the coming future. So stay tuned.
And we are still missing certain populations apart on VACAC. We would love to have individuals to join us from our wonderful trans, binary community, as well as our Latinx, Hispanic community, and anyone who falls within that category of youth. I used to be young at one point. So anyone, of anyone who's between the ages of 18 and 30 who would like to join us and be a part of our regional team, and then aspire to be a part of our executive team, please send us those individuals so someone from our VACAC executive team can reach out to those persons.
Great, thank you.
And also, if you are interested in participating in one of our hybrid sessions in the future, we actually had our second hybrid session last night in our community engagement center, and we had over 40 consumers attending. We invited our quality manager, Safri was there, Camellia Espinal was there, and we also had Miss Kimberly Scott, who was on vacation, but she stopped by. And this session we had last night, the topic was healthy living and healthy eating. They ate dinner, then we came back and we had the young lady, Deidre Johnson, who was instrumental in getting the law passed last year that decriminalized HIV. Instead of being a felony, it's just a misdemeanor, a class 1 misdemeanor. But in order to be convicted of a misdemeanor, they have to prove intent, which means the person that you had unprotected sex with would have to have become infected by you in order for them to charge you with it. So we had that last night. We had our VACAC listening session. Some of the major issues that came up last night was housing. Consumers felt that some of these housing services, though they may not be controlled by VDH funding, but like Hopwa, we had a consumer who actually has to move out of the state because she ran out of money because she refused to go into the substandard housing program that one of the Hopwa funding agencies wanted to put her in. She had a non-binary child. They wanted to put her in the flagship motel down in Petersburg, which is known for a lot of kind of nighttime dangers. And I said, I'm gonna leave it like that. But this person refused to go there. And then we had some other consumers that expressed that, some of the places that, we really had to think about when we are funding or when we have these public hearings or federal public hearings, when we are giving funds to people, yes, people living with HIV, they need housing, but they need safe housing. They don't need housing if they've been in substance use and they've coming out of incarceration, and we're putting them in a place just because it's one available, and they come out their front door and they have to be approached by drug dealers. Hey, you want to buy this dime? You want to buy some weed? You put, and people got kids. So those are some of the issues that came up last night. We still had some concerns about case management, following through on some issues. And so we're planning a housing summit that's going to be coming up soon. And last night, people got to question Safri, they got to question Ms. Scott. They talk about some of the resources that VDH had available. We went over the unified eligibility plan last night. So all in all, the dinner started at 6:30. Some of the clients didn't leave until 10 because they said, I was giving some of the clients a ride home. They said, you know what? This program was long tonight, but it was worth it because we got good information. We got a chance to have our voices heard, and we had some good food, good fellowship. Some people hadn't seen each other. There were some people who came to the hybrid last night, some consumers that hadn't been to a support group in over 5 years. Okay, so we encourage, if you're a provider in the central region or any other region, if you would like to be invited to a hybrid, as we roll this thing out around the other regions, if you want to be invited to, send your provider or a nurse practitioner or a case manager to one of our hybrid sessions, we encourage you to use that link that I just posted in the room and say, hey, we're interested in partnering with you in hybrid, because at the end of the day, the reason we have so many wars and so many disruptions and division in the world is because of a lack of communication, right? You always hear that commercial. I remember growing up, the guy used to say, what we have here is a failure to communicate, right? So when we start communicating and we start meeting outside of that clinical room, we begin to know the human side of the consumers and the human side of the providers, and we can talk about what our needs are, and it's not an agitation thing, but it's a heart speaking to another heart. Hey, I'm human. This is what's going on. How can you direct me to what I need to deal with this issue? And I'm done.
And some of the topics that we're proposing to tackle this year, and in Juwan's presentation, part of his presentation, he talked about all of the great presentation that we have done this year, and we're going to continue to build on that. So this year, some of our proposed topics, we're going to talk about understanding your lab values and getting the most out of your doctor visits, pronouns and the dimensions of gender sexuality, which really is, I think that's going to be a really great presentation. HIV and mental health, HIV and substance misuse. So we have a lot of topics that we're going to be working off of this year. Also, we're going to be talking about how to secure life insurance and burial insurance, because that seemed to be a hot, big topic around all of our regions in the Commonwealth. So those are going to be some of the topics, with a few other things sprinkled in that we think we're going to tackle this year in 2022.
Excellent, thank you. The next question, what do you know to sustain the VACAC that makes you unique compared to other states? And that's a question from Safra, if he wants to elaborate on it.
Well, from my perspective, I think what has sustained VACAC is this forward momentum in the that makes us valuable. Well, I've always known consumers hold the key to everything. And so now it's getting the powers that be who hold the purse strings to realize consumers hold the key to everything. Because, and everybody on this call also know you have to have consumer involvement, because it's not only mandated by HRSA, but why wouldn't you want to know that the services that you're funding is actually working or actually getting to the people who need those services? So to me, one of the things that has sustained VACAC over the course of 5 or 6 years is really having that backing and the mentoring from the officials and leadership at VDH, and also the forward momentum of our providers and the consumer in the community, because this is really a partnership. We have VDH, we have the providers, we have our consumers. So it's really a partnership in building off of those partnerships. Joanne, I'm pretty sure you have something you would like to add to that.
One of the things that I also think is has helped to sustain VACAC is that we look at things differently. We think outside of the box. We pivot on our heels. We pivot at the drop of a dime. Our leadership team is, just like any other family or any other organization, you're going to have hiccups along the way. You're going to have growing pains, right? You talk about, we just had Valentine's Day on February 14th, right? And, some people are single, some people are together, right? But even in a couple, in a family, you have problems where when you first meet somebody for their first date, you only meet that, what I call a pseudo person. You meet that fake person, right? Because that's what they're presenting to you, because they want to convince you that somebody that you could continue being with, right? But in the VACAC family, we first met, all of us didn't know each other, right? And so we had those pseudo personalities like, oh, I'm pleasant, I'm a consumer, I want to do this and that. But then as we begin to grow over the years, there was some confusion, because you have people that, just like agencies have territorial disputes, you have consumers that feel like they need to be the only voice in the room, or they have ulterior motives of why they want to belong to something, right? And so then you get to the point where you have a lot of confusion going on. But once people empty their feelings, once, we just lay it out on the table, let's fight it out, let's just get it off your chest. Once they get it off the chest, then we can begin to build the community. And I think that's what's happening in the VACAC over the 5 years, I think going toward 6 years that we've been in existence. We've been able to get beyond the confusion, the in-house fighting. And now we've emptied our feelings. We're moving forward. I think we all have shown that we are in this to win it, right? We are committed. We are loyal. When we have VACAC members that get sick at a presentation, we had a VACAC member at an in-person training, had to go to the hospital, had to leave the training in the ambulance. I got a call from another member the other day say, oh, I went to the hospital and I cooked so-and-so a meal and I took it to him. I went up there and checked it. So I went up there and visited the person, right? And people call each other. We got a new program now we're going to start doing. Mark came up with this idea a couple of weeks ago that we found we have members that go in and out of the hospital. So we're going to make like a committee that we get together, sign a virtual card or something, send it to somebody, pick up the phone and call our other members. We've created group texts within the regions so that the region people can say, hey, if you want to invite somebody into your house, you got to show that you're unified, right? Because you don't want to invite anybody into your region and they say, oh, they got too much infighting going on, right? So we develop group texts where people wake up in the morning and say, hey, so-and-so, have a great day. I'm enjoying being a part of the team. So that builds a sense of family. And I think right now at VACAC, we're not just a VACAC of executive members. We are human. We have feelings, and we have learned to empty our feelings when they need to be emptied. And when we step on somebody's toe, we have learned to apologize and make up and keep moving, because that's the only way that VACAC is going to continue to grow. But at the same time, we are so happy to have VBH as our support umbrella, because I'm going to tell you, Safri is the man. When we fall down, he pick us up and he said, shake it off and keep moving it, because you're a family. He said, when things go wrong, he said, Jawan, we are a family, and we keep moving, we keep encouraging and pushing each other forward. When somebody on the team falls, we grab, just like the people when they run the race in the Olympics, somebody trips and falls, the other runner will give up his race to help that person across the finish line. And I think that's what we do at VACAC. We help every member to get across the finish line, and that's the way we are. Safri supports us, Camellia supports us, Jonathan and Scott, and kudos to Brad and Ms. Make sure I pronounce her name right, Ms. Elizabeth. I don't want to say it like that, I might mess it up. And Amanda that used to be there, Rob Rodney is a jewel. He helps us with. And then there was a gentleman from Eastern Virginia Medical School that did our PowerPoint training, Dr. Tanya Kearney. We just have an awesome network of support, and that's what sustains VACAC. The loyalty, the commitment, the dedication, and just like I told Mark, we are like NASA. We are resilient.
Thank you. We have a couple minutes left. If anyone else wants to put a question up, I think that's everything that's in the chat room. There's some really good information in there that was addressed regarding your regional representatives. Links have been put in. One thing I would mention at the very end here is that goal that you want to get regular updates to providers. And when I refer to providers, I'm talking about those that do clinical care, case managers, the team that are out there, working with the patients on the ground level. And when I say patients, that's, more clinical, but working with the consumers. Part of our mandate, with Ryan White funding, for instance, is to have consumer engagement and consumer feedback built in. And I know some agencies that get Ryan White funding, try to do set things up, and they're kind of different at different places. Is that a possibility? Have you ever looked into kind of tying in VACAC being that provider of consumer engagement and maybe having almost mandatory updates on a quarterly or biannual basis?
That idea is definitely worth exploring, but also what I would encourage all of our providers and agencies, Part B providers that's on this call, is to reach out to some of your patients and select a consumer champion who our area reps can reach out to and invite to meetings and invite to community and events to keep them engaged and keep them informed. So if every agency, Part B agency, would select a consumer champion, we will have our bases covered.
Excellent. We have the links, everyone, on this, and tomorrow's session will really encourage that you jump in and join in and learn as much as possible and get our consumers engaged, the ones that we work with that aren't as familiar with it. I think we're out of time, but it's been an excellent session, and I guess we'll end it at this time.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. It was a great presentation.